So, as I reflect, man, like once again, I'm 10 years here in Portland now. And really, I would say 10 years into my career, right? Making real money, right? And, I think for me, I was really lucky and blessed in that I had growing up a lot of family and support in terms of just like mentorship and then seeing like my aunts and my uncles just do things like create businesses. Start doing real estate. I have I like everybody has that Nigerian uncle, but this is like an actual rich Nigerian uncle. So for me, that had a huge influence on me growing up. I remember when I was in elementary school, like I as early as I remember, I was always trying to figure out how to make money, right? So I would go to the dollar store, I'd buy a pack of pixie sticks for a hundred pixie sticks or something like that. And then I would flip that bag and I would sell it for like $10, right? So for me, that's kind of where it all started. And, just hearing my uncle talk about things as a kid, I started like trying to understand more about trading and stocks. I got my first job when I was 14, which was great because I think learning the value of money and hard work and working, I worked at McDonald's for almost 4 years before I graduated from high school. And for me, that was very transformative in the sense that like I had a very early introduction to what I wanted to do and what I didn't want to do. So I knew that I didn't want to work at McDonald's just because you were doing a lot of work and the return on investment wasn't as great. So for me, that really kind of solidified that hey, I wanted to figure out a way to kind of grow money, grow funds, and not do something that was as taxing, say physically. And what was interesting about that for me is early on, I realized that I had this knack for computers. Like I would work on a computer all weekend, and it would feel like no time was passing. So when I made that connection, and I realized that hey, there was something to this computer thing, and not everybody could do it. The rest, as they say, was kind of history. So one of the things that I was really fortunate about when I got into college is I met this kind of core group of friends, still good friends that I stay up with today. At computer engineering at Virginia Tech was not easy, and I wouldn't have got it through it if it wasn't for these people. But what was really transformative was not just having people to go through that program with, but just their views on life. And then the bond that was formed and the trust that was formed, right? So to the point where when we graduated, one of my good friends, he was one of the first ones to kind of get his first job offer. He got a job offer at the agency that is in Fort Meade, Maryland, right? And he bought a house like almost immediately, or probably like less than 2 or 3 years after graduating from college. And like it was just such like a mind blowing concept to me. I went to go do my master's after that, but one of the things that he recommended, one of the books he recommended for me when I graduated was this one. I'll Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And one of the things that you'll see as we kind of have our conversations is that we're all avid readers on this call. I had a period of time where I would go to parties with books. Corey and Elroy will tell you it's actually probably a bad habit, but I mean, anywhere they saw me, I was at a book in my hand. And the reason for that is because if somebody takes the time to actually put their thoughts down on paper, right? That usually means that they've put a lot of thought into it, right? They've had an editor look at it. And for me, what was good about this book was I got this very early in my career. So from day one, I put into action the plans and the recommendations that this book really kind of highlighted, which is, to save and really kind of live the lifestyle that you lived when you were in college for a little bit while you were still used to that, right? I think what happens, a lot of people graduate, get out of college, they get that first paycheck balling. Me, I moved to Portland, Oregon. I got a $700 apartment, right? And I lived as close to work as possible because I still had some student loan debt, right? I had some scholarships, but for me, I just the growing up, the way I grew up, the way I kind of viewed money, debt never really like sat well with me. Meaning that like I don't like owing anybody anything, right? So prioritize that and prioritize the saving strategy here. I didn't know a lot about finance, that kind of thing. But I knew that, hey, I should be maxing out my 401k or doing as much as I could towards my 401k. I didn't know a lot about really just compounding interest at that time, but I just knew that, hey, I'm paying more money than I should on this money that I borrowed. So let me pay this off as soon and as fast as I can. And for me, one of the things that also happened very early in my career was really the opportunity to be in what was called a rotational engineering leadership program. And I got a chance to kind of see like early on, like corporate politics. That shaped a lot of my like financial strategy, a lot of my decision making when it came to how I would approach advancement. And for me, what I learned early was like I didn't really want to play the corporate game, right? I could do it, right? And, I was half decent at it, but, I was just always such a fundamental like worker, right? That I didn't want to play the politics and, try to make my performance review look amazing. I just wanted to do great work, right? And be the best engineer that I can be. And what that led me to was maybe getting passed over for promotions, that kind of thing, and really kind of doubting maybe like my worth and my contribution as an engineer. And that's actually really what kicked off my desire to do things outside of Intel at the time. And this was, once again, 1 year into the job after, you come from college and you think that you should be doing all these things. So I got into entrepreneurship early, attending startup weekends, and looking at ways I could take my skill set, my strengths, in order to kind of do something outside of the day job, because I didn't want my worth as an engineer or as an entrepreneur to be tied to, the valuation that I got back from my day job. So one thing led to the next. I got connected with other entrepreneurs, Part Pick, Jewel Burks, and ended up going to TechCrunch Disrupt, and really just after that experience realized there was an opportunity to take the skills that I had learned at the day job combined with just my passion for learning engineering and my ideas, right? To take that same hustle when I was in elementary school and turn it into a hustle with the software game. So a lot of my strategy was based on fundamentals, as Elroy mentioned, which is, do the basics, do your research, learn about these things. Get this book if you have, and if you don't read any other book, this is the one I would recommend personally. But then also just being very disciplined about being purposeful about learning. I think when you're still in that phase out of college, out of university, or really just as you're kind of like younger, you're going to be more open to things. Some of the other books that I really, and authors I really recommend is Brian Tracy. As you can see, I read his book pretty thoroughly. Right. And this book on self-discipline and no excuses is one that I highly recommend. And then just for kicks, to round out your arsenal, you should actually go ahead and read the Steve Jobs book as well. So these were just a couple of the books that I personally invested in, and things that really kind of motivated me and made me think that, hey, you know what? I have the capacity and ability to do great things. I'm going to use my day job, that's what I call my current work, as a funding vehicle, right? And set up a system that allows me to take the funds that I'm getting to funnel into my personal passions, my personal growth, more risky ventures, crypto. You'll hear me talk a lot about that. But for me, growing up, I think the only thing I probably would have done different was actually take more risk. And then, funny enough, while taking risk, follow a plan. Like, I know those kind of seem like opposites, but have a plan. Having a plan, has worked for me 9 times out of 10 when it comes to my financial goals, my business goals, all of the above. So for me, I wish I would have understood that earlier, right? And really been more open to ideas and really kind of doubling down on my learning even more than I was at the time. So that's my experience. Some of the things that I hope to be able to kind of enlighten and talk about. I've had a lot of mistakes, had some successes as well, but I think that at the end of the day, you want to make sure that the successes continue to stack up and just outweigh the failures by one. And I think with this group of guys, you'll definitely get that through this series.